Celebrating life is a way of expressing gratitude for experiences and also a way to acknowledge personal growth through your accomplishments. Today we have leadership coach and author Nokubonga Mbanga in studio to discuss the importance of celebrating our lives and the milestones within them. Welcome back, Nokubonga. Great to have you with us.
Thank you.
Now let's talk about milestones. I mean, what do you consider to be milestones in life?
I think a milestone, in my experience, is a significant event that is as a result of an outcome, something that you've worked on, and it's going towards something that you're developing about yourself. So I am identifying this, and therefore, if I've reached a certain target, that is a milestone. It's a way of recognizing that I've done so well in certain areas, and this is how I'm growing myself, because with that milestone, then there's an appetite to say, what am I going to do next?
Okay. So it's kind of that thing of work towards something and then find a new goal to work towards to keep moving forward.
Yeah, in a way, it creates meaning. It's very intentional. It's almost, for me, milestone, it's meaning maps.
Okay.
So this is my guidepost. This is therefore how this has taken me to the next step. Yeah.
And why is it so important that we celebrate these milestones rather than them just sort of happening and we move on?
You know, for me, if you don't, where you want to get the energy and the appetite to move on to the next step? So they drive that intrinsic motivation. They are a fuel to the next step, because it helps you. For me, it's being responsible about your progress. Right. So this is what I've done. This is where I am. You've put energy, you've put attention, you've put hard work. So it's important to be able to recognize what you've done, because that recognition gives you reverence to push forward.
Okay. Now, milestones has a lot of weight to it, in my mind anyway. When you talk about milestones, I mean, should these be, are you celebrating, maybe you've been studying and you're doing a course and you've now finished the course, or should you be celebrating the smaller in-between points, like you made it through the first week of extra hours studying, maybe you made it through the first semester of a course. So are we aiming for the big finality within one something, or is it all the points along the way, or many points along the way, to keep that energy up?
And the key word you've used there, to keep that energy up.
Yeah.
So it's about celebrating everything.
Okay.
It's about being able to say, I've moved from this point to that. So for me, don't wait for the Oscar moment.
Okay.
Because what you do, you end up missing. Yes. Because what celebration does, it highlights that story, and in your memory, you remember that this is what I've done. And it's literal being able to say, I've done this, and I've done it so well, and I celebrated that moment. It doesn't have to be an Oscar moment where you're saying, okay, now, because I've done this big thing, then now I can celebrate. Because when we wait for that, where is that encouragement going to come from? So how do we build intrinsic motivation? By being able to celebrate those moments. Where are we going? How are we going to exercise optimism if we don't step into those moments where we're like, this is how I have hoped that it was turned out.
Yes.
And this is what milestone gives us, that this is how it has turned out. It has turned out well. Therefore, let's celebrate it.
I can understand so clearly, as you're talking about the importance of the steps in the process or the journey, because sometimes we get so overwhelmed by that big thing at the end, which is there's a lot of work to get. It's climbing a massive mountain. But if you don't celebrate the moments where there's just a beautiful view which changes, it gets you closer to the summit of the mountain, it can be so excessively daunting that you give up. So how do you encourage people to sort of re-look at things, to acknowledge that these little moments are really worth being proud of?
So it's for me, if you think about what we're going through, you know, in terms of the challenges that we're experiencing, people that survive or thrive through those challenges is through being resilient. How do you build resilience when things are not going well? And what do you need the most when you're experiencing those challenges is the ability to remember the things that you've done well. So for me, celebrating is about being present in your story at that moment in time. And when you are present in terms of the things that you're doing well, it really spikes your energy up in terms of saying, tomorrow I can push forward. And it's very good for your emotional well-being, because then, to your point, it can be daunting when you're looking at the future self and that you don't even start. But when you have those small steps, you transition better every step of the way, and therefore it becomes less and less scary because you've taken those celebrations as safe goals that propel you forward.
Right. So now, Nokubonga, these are what we've been talking is very much about things and personal growth and improvement and things like that. But other milestones in our life are very much those personal ones of birthdays, anniversaries, things like that. How important is it that we are celebrating these things as well? Because I've noticed, maybe just in my sphere, but more and more people tend to shy away from celebrating the birthdays, especially as we get older. It's like, oh, do I really want to acknowledge that I'm getting older? But these are also important things to, like, you achieve the next year of life. You've done something. How do you balance those things where it's also about the things that are happening to me, my life? They happen anyway, regardless of whether I try or not. But I need to celebrate them. How do I get that mindset of, let's really celebrate all the things we can celebrate in life?
So it's the meaning you attach to it. Like you said, I'm getting older, what's there to celebrate? Or I should shy away because now, it's the big number. It's how you view those milestones. So what's the meaning that I'm associating with my age? If it's embarrassment, or if it's something that I should be, something that I need to hide away from, then you're not going to celebrate. So for me, the biggest work you need to do around that is being able to say, what is the meaning that's associated with being older? It's a lot about wisdom. So how do I celebrate it in such a way it resonates with me? So define how you want to celebrate those moments that are personal, that you think that you should diminish because, people at my age don't do this. How do you want to do it your way so that it resonates with you, so that you feel full about celebrating the fact that you are 50 or 60, whatever the age that it is that you are uncomfortable because you're looking outside. If you think about it, because you're looking at outside, what others are going to think that, with my wrinkles, I shouldn't be celebrating. Why not? Those wrinkles are a sign of success, of growth, of wisdom. It's your journey. Absolutely.
So let's sort of define celebrate, because I think people also often hear the word celebrate and think, oh, it's got to be a party, there must be champagne, lots of people, lots of food and lots of music. But when we say celebrate, we don't mean a big party necessarily. I mean, what are some of the things that we could be doing to celebrate that would resonate probably more than just a grand sort of party? A
grandstanding. So I call them halala moments.
Halala moments.
Yes,
I like that.
It's you praying about the work that you've done. That's celebration. A prayer is a celebration, right? And sitting down and reflecting in terms of where you are and versus where you are, in terms of, let's say you're someone who's always panicking, and you realize today I didn't panic at all. That's a celebration.
Yes.
I, for example, I don't even wait for an Oscar moment. If I get a call about a big event that I've been invited to speak on, I celebrated that moment. After that call, putting it down. So it doesn't have to be this formal overthinking about celebrating. Celebrating is, after this conversation, I'm going to celebrate. And it could be deciding that I'm going to have a nice meal by myself. It could be that I'm going to go and get a book. It could be about just sitting with yourself. It doesn't have to be an expensive exercise. It doesn't have to be externally driven. It could be very internal driven in how you celebrate yourself.
Okay. I mean, would you say that something as simple as a gratitude practice is celebrating?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Prayer is, if you think about it, is gratitude. Have your own rituals of celebration and decide at what point do I use gratitude, do I go out, or do I just sit with myself and have a prayer? And the reason for me why I say let's not wait for it is that there's an excitement in when it happens.
Yes.
Your body is feeling something at that moment. So let's not wait for that well done table for us to celebrate, because that's when your body remembers and has memory in terms of your DNA of what it looks like to celebrate, or what it feels like, not just for in terms of doing a very big event.
Right, right. Also, in this life we live, it's very busy, there's a lot of distraction, all of these, so sometimes that opportunity to celebrate straight away maybe passes us by because we're so quick to move on to the next thing. So what do we learn in these celebrations?
We learn a lot, and I'm thinking, I'm getting excited because we can talk about it the whole day. One of the things is being present immediately with that story. You learn to, people that celebrate themselves, they don't necessarily diminish themselves. They have a high sense value of value and worth because they are seeing themselves. You are able to therefore build a sense of self-reverence, the ability to admire and appreciate yourself, and it also allows you and helps you to appreciate others. So it's a very good skill in terms of building relationship with yourself and with others, because then your mind is focused on seeing how others are doing well and how you are doing well. So it's very good for our well-being. At the heart of it is our well-being. It's a for me, celebrating is a self-preservation tool, because when you're experiencing challenges or you are preparing for that big meeting, what keeps you going is remembering how well you've done in the previous one. So it's a very powerful tool in terms of driving, for me, that intrinsic motivation, exercising optimism, because you're not basing on, I'm feeling good, I'm going to be positive, but there's bucket loads of data that are reminding you stories that you highlighted throughout your journey, your experiences, whether it's your personal life or your career life, that are reminding you how well you've done. So when you are at that moment, when you need yourself the most, these stories that we keep in our bodies are a remembrance, and a remembrance because they're real. They're practical. They're not things where you've said, I'm going to affirm that I'm good, but you're saying, this is the stuff that I've done. And therefore, this is how it helps me to stand up again.
Your excitement that you mentioned earlier, I mean, I can feel it in myself now. So Nokubonga, thank you so much. Really quite an inspirational little discussion. I've really enjoyed it. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you.